Well, hello everyone. So my name is Kayla Perry, and I am the registered dietitian at Wellstar Health Place. And today I want to talk to you about foods that fight inflammation. So this is a subject that has been really near and dear to me. There's a lot of really good evidence out there that can help with inflammation. And inflammation is such a broad term that you know, eating anti-inflammatory foods can help with a lot of different conditions. So let's start here. All right, so our table of contents. So what does inflammation look like? We're going to talk about what inflammation is, nutrition, and how it can be called the first line of defense for inflammation, anti-inflammatory foods, and then pro-inflammatory foods. So foods that can fight inflammation and foods that can cause inflammation. So what does inflammation look like? Well, inflammation is actually very normal and natural. It's our body's response to an injury, toxin, stress, or trauma. It is to protect us and heal us unless it starts to go into a chronic inflammation. So there's a difference between acute versus chronic inflammation. Acute inflammation is, hey, you got a cut, you got a bruise, you got a burn. Your body is going to use inflammation to actually help heal you and fight off all of this negative stuff that you got going on. But then when it goes into progressive destruction, chronic inflammation, that is a problem. And it can show up in a lot of different ways. You've got autoimmune disease, you got heart disease, like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, your arteries hardening. Cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, all of this is chronic and destructive inflammation. So nutrition could be called the first line of defense. There are some studies that some of these anti-inflammatory foods actually have the ability to balance out or even stop inflammatory signals in your body before they even start. All of these compounds that we talk about in foods, things like antioxidants, polyphenols, flavonoids, phytochemicals, phytosterols, all of these different compounds in foods, a lot of them have potential to be anti-inflammatory. Keep in mind too, there are a lot of chemical and metabolic processes in our body that require vitamins and minerals to function. So really focusing on just eating a complete, well-balanced diet helps your metabolism to work. And remember that metabolism isn't just burning calories. It's also using your calories and using your food to build and restore and heal things. And keep in mind that a lack of certain nutrients will slow your metabolism down, lack of B vitamins, iron, magnesium. There's many things that can affect metabolism and therefore affect your ability to fight off inflammation. Keep in mind also our cells are constantly dying off and being replaced by what we eat. So you're literally made up of what you eat. Your cells are made up of what you eat. And, we only live off of nutrition, water, and oxygen. So food literally is our fuel, and it allows our body to function at the highest potential that it can, or it can cause dysfunction if our body is lacking in nutrients. So here's the big long list of anti-inflammatory foods. What's great is that I feel like nutrition is often very negative, telling you things that you can't eat or shouldn't eat, or take out this or take out that. Look at this big long list of things that you should eat and you should add to your diet. I feel like it's a very positive list. So let's just start. We'll talk about each one individually. Anti-inflammatory foods. So number one, the absolute king of anti-inflammation is turmeric. Turmeric has the most studies on it. The active compound in turmeric is called curcumin. It's what makes it anti-inflammatory. Now, turmeric is a very strong spice, so you're going to have to be real creative in how you eat it. Turmeric is what makes curry yellow, so it does have that very strong, savory, intense flavor to it. You could put turmeric powder or even fresh turmeric in a smoothie. You could make, if you're a Pinterester, you can go on Pinterest and look for, they have these little turmeric snack balls that you can make. Golden milk is basically you just take any kind of milk, coconut, almond, skim milk, and you heat it up with some turmeric powder and some honey. People drink that. You can get turmeric tea or make a turmeric tea. You can sprinkle on savory food. So I like to add turmeric to eggs a lot. That goes really well. You can add it to like fish, chicken, anything kind of savory. I've even added it to vegetables like broccoli. Now keep in mind turmeric's absorption is increased by adding black pepper, quercetin, which is an antioxidant, and a source of fat. Now the most important part of that is probably the black pepper, to be honest. Quercetin's an antioxidant. You can buy it as a supplement, but it's definitely not 100%. Like you have to get that. And then a source of fat. Now, curcumin is a fat-soluble compound, so it absorbs better in fat. A lot of things already have fat. You know, meat has fat, eggs have fat. So you probably don't have to think about that, but maybe just keep it in mind. Like if you're putting it in a smoothie, add some like healthy fat, chia seeds, avocado, something like that, to help it absorb. So if turmeric's the king, ginger is the queen. And ginger also has a lot of really good anti-inflammatory benefits to it. There are some studies that actually show that it can block inflammatory compounds called prostaglandins and leukotrienes. You could put, since ginger is also very strongly flavored, you can add the ginger root into a smoothie. It's good in like healthy baked goods and desserts, Asian dishes, dressings. There's ginger tea that you can make. So there are a lot of ways that you can eat your ginger as well. So turmeric and ginger, number one. Number two, most anti-inflammatory foods. Then we move on to omega-3. So omega-3 fats and omega-6 fats need to be in balance with each other. But there's a lot of ways to eat omega-3. You can get plant omega-3 from chia seeds, hemp seeds. These have very neutral flavors. You don't really taste them all that much. You can sprinkle them on anything, put them on a salad and a yogurt. You can also use chia and flax seeds as egg substitutes because they do have this really unique water absorbing ability. Salmon, your animal omega-3, probably one of the best ways to get omega-3. You can eat salmon in a lot of different ways, as patties, on top of a salad, you know, in a foil packet, any way that you want to do salmon. Just a little note on oils here. Don't actually cook on high heat with olive oil. Olive oil has a very low smoke point. So you don't want your oil smoking out of the pan. It's actually not good for you. You would want to use more like grapeseed, safflower, canola. If you like avocado oil, you know, you can do that too. Sesame oil is fine. You want an oil, but if you're going to cook on higher heat that does not smoke out of the pan. A lot of people like to use coconut oil, very trendy right now. Do keep in mind that coconut oil is very high in saturated fat, which is on our pro-inflammatory list. So you don't want to do too much saturated fat because it can raise your cholesterol. But still use olive oil. You know, olive oil is still a very healthy oil. You just don't want to cook it on high heat. Water is probably one of the most underutilized and underappreciated nutrients on the planet. We tend to forget that our bodies are made up of almost 60% water. Now, slight dehydration too can slow our metabolism down. There's a lot of different metabolic processes in our body that requires water to work. You want to do at least that 64 ounces per day, or you can do half your body weight in ounces. So if you are, you know, a few hundred pounds, you drink 100 ounces of water. If water is rough for you, if you don't really like the taste, you can make spa water. Basically, just put some fruit in it. You know, put some cucumbers in it. Let it sit there. Make your water taste a little bit better. You can drink carbonated water too. I would just say avoid the artificial sweeteners. Now keep in mind too that caffeine and sugary drinks will dehydrate you, working against what you're trying to do. Remember that water is anti-inflammatory because it improves your metabolism, but then it also just, if you think of inflammation as something rubbing against something else, water is going to help it be more fluid and kind of decrease that rubbing in a way. So it just keeps things more fluid. So water is just really important for us. Moving on to tart cherry juice. Now, usually I don't recommend juice. Juice is really high in sugar, but this is one exception because there's so much good evidence on tart cherry juice specifically, a lot for arthritis and gout. It contains, those are the flavonoids that it contains, and then you don't have to do a lot. You know, you could do just 4 to 6 ounces and treat it as a sort of quote-unquote supplement. Tart cherry juice actually has a good amount of melatonin in it too, so it may actually be anti-inflammatory and could help you sleep. And getting enough sleep is important to fight inflammation as well. So antioxidant-rich foods. Antioxidant, we talk about them a lot in reference to cancer. They can help fight off tumor synthesis, keep our bodies healthy. So I just listed a couple of the really high antioxidant-rich foods. Berries are probably one of your most antioxidant-rich fruits. They're also really high in fiber, low in sugar, and there's a lot of really fun ways to eat them. Eat them as a snack, put them on yogurt. I like to put them in my oatmeal. I think those are good. You could put them in your smoothie with your ginger and turmeric. Um, and it's any berry, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries. Green tea, specifically matcha, is probably one of the most antioxidant-rich foods on the planet. It's also high in caffeine, so if you feel like you need a little caffeine boost, and you get your antioxidants at the same time, you could do some green tea. Matcha is very expensive, though, keep in mind. So if you want to just do regular green tea, you'll still get some antioxidant benefit from that. But the matcha green tea powder is fun to do because you can add it into recipes and make things green. I made matcha waffles before, and that was really cool. Um, so spinach, I added spinach because a lot of people struggle to increase their vegetable intake. A lot of vegetables do have that high antioxidant quality. Spinach is just one of the easiest and most nutrition-dense vegetables to add to your life. Spinach has that sort of mild flavor. It doesn't have that leafy kind of flavor that kale has. And it melts up really easily if you cook it. So, you can add it to eggs, you can add it to smoothies, you can put it in your sauces, you can add it on your sandwiches. It's just a great way to increase your nutrient and your vegetable intake. Just eat some spinach. Beets are actually really underappreciated too, and they almost should be a superfood in a way. Beets are very high in antioxidants. Betaine is their antioxidant, and they are one of the only foods that can create nitric oxide in your body. Nitric oxide can act as a vasodilator, so dilating your veins can be, they're using actually beets now in some like pre-workout stuff because it can just make you feel more energized before a workout. But a lot of athletes are interested in it also to help their muscles recover from working out. And then if you think of vasodilation, it can be good for high blood pressure also, just a lot of other fighting inflammation. So beets, you don't have to eat them pickled. You can eat them cold in like an orange ginger salad, which is really good. You can smoothie them, use them instead of fruit because they're really sweet. I really like to eat them roasted, savory. Roast them like potatoes, put some garlic and olive oil on them, and they're really, really good. Probiotics. So probiotics aren't necessarily anti-inflammatory in themselves, but what they do is they help you absorb your nutrients. So that's going to be really important in fighting inflammation. So being a dietitian, it is my personal and professional opinion that I like people to eat them versus taking a supplement. I feel that they are, they're healthy bacteria for our gut, so we want them to be alive and kicking and working. So there's a lot of ways that you can eat it. Kefir is your sort of drinkable milk kind of product, and then there's kombucha, which is really popular and trendy right now. Kombucha is sort of a fizzy fermented tea. Then you've got sauerkraut and kimchi, which are your condiments. Kimchi is sort of a spicier cabbage condiment that I really like. Tempeh is a fermented form of soy, and miso is a fermented form of soy. And then there's also yogurt. Yogurt's a probiotic as well. Most probiotics, there's an idea and a theory of thought that they work better in an empty stomach because it may give them more of a chance to settle in there. So yogurt, there's lots of good ways to eat yogurt. Kimchi and sauerkraut are good condiments. Tempeh, if you've never tried tempeh before, it actually has a really nice sort of meatball-like texture. Really good for like a taco, or if you're making like a vegetarian meatball or something. Just keep in mind it's plain like tofu, so you are going to want to like marinate it and cover it in seasonings and things. Remember, the whole point of probiotics is they're improving your gut health. Gut health is important. There's a theory of thought that that's where our health starts, because if we're not absorbing our nutrients, if we're not absorbing our food, then what's the point? We've got to get these nutrients into our body so they can help our body. So if you're questioning your gut health, if you experience a lot of constipation, diarrhea, bloating, pain, grumbling, anything, maybe just take a closer look into your gut health, because you would want that to be working well. Vitamin D, super important. I jokingly tell people that vitamin D stands for vitamin deficient, which is kind of a bad joke, but a lot of people are deficient in vitamin D, unfortunately, because it does come from the sun, and a lot of us just aren't outside. We just aren't getting sun. Vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, so it does need fat to absorb. You can get it from a couple of foods, but mostly you get it from that sun exposure. Now, keep in mind, too, that Sunscreen will block vitamin D absorption. And all you need is 15 minutes. But if for some reason it's just not happening and you found to be vitamin D deficient, you want to talk to your doctor about getting a supplement to bring that up. Vitamin D is directly related to our immune system. There's so much evidence about how it can help fight against or just help improve autoimmune conditions. It is involved in hormonal functions as well. So don't just start taking vitamin D, though. It is a fat-soluble vitamin, so it can build up in toxic amounts in your body. So you're going to want to just check and see if you are deficient before you take it. Capsaicin. So capsaicin from hot peppers. It can be from black pepper, too. Black pepper still counts. If you want to do this, you can add the powdered form, cayenne, black pepper, curry powder, things like that, to any of your food. The blend raw hot peppers into smoothies. I've made it's a jalapeno pineapple smoothie, and that was pretty good. Or you can make a hummus with some jalapenos in it or peppers. You can use peppers in cooking. So again, you don't have to do this. I know a lot of people don't like spicy food, but it is something that is anti-inflammatory if you want to. Keep in mind that there are some potential interactions with some of these foods. Some of these foods are really strong, really powerful, but most of the interactions happen with supplements. So if you're eating them, probably not going to happen. And honestly, I would rather people, again, eat food instead of take supplements. Keep in mind, so all these foods are anti-inflammatory. So ginger and turmeric may have a blood thinning effect. So if you're on any blood thinners, want to be careful to not eat or take a supplement of these. And then if you have any active gallbladder issues, like if you don't have a gallbladder, that's fine. But if you have active gallbladder issues, sometimes turmeric can bother that. Turmeric has the ability to decrease blood sugar, slow blood clotting, because it's anti-inflammatory. These are usually good things. So always keep in mind that you want to tell a doctor if you are starting any sort of supplements or anything like that. Same thing with capsaicin, may slow blood clotting because it's anti-inflammatory. And since it's spicy, it does irritate some people's skin or stomach. So always ask a doctor before you do any sort of high intense supplements. Eating them is usually safe though. Pro-inflammatory foods. So these are the foods that cause inflammation. Sugar being the #1 major food cause of causing inflammation. So we're going to go through these. Sugar, #1, worst thing that you can do to increase your inflammation. Comes in a lot of forms: glucose, fructose, sucrose, maltose, lactose, all the oses, right? Even honey is sugar, agave nectar is sugar, maple syrup is sugar. These may be more natural forms of sugar, but they're still sugar. But the one natural sugar I don't want you to worry about is fruit. So there's a difference between added sugar versus sugar from fruit. Fruit have a lot of really good other nutrients in them, fiber, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. So I don't want you to worry about the sugar from fruit, but limit your added sugar to 38 grams a day for men, 25 grams a day for women. You can use instead fruit, stevia and stevia is okay. But the best way to get sugar out of your life is to not need it. Retrain your taste buds. Your taste buds are actually very sensitive to sugar and salt. So if you slowly decrease your sugar and your salt intake over time, you will find that even something like a banana may now taste really sweet to you when it wasn't super sweet in the past. So that's the best way. Just don't kind of retrain your brain into needing that sweet taste. Saturated fat may be inflammatory because it can increase your cholesterol, which is not what we want. That can be inflammatory. So your high saturated fat foods, red meat, cheese, coconut has low saturated fat, sour cream, mayonnaise, butter, fried foods, baked goods. Eggs have saturated fat in them too, but eggs are super healthy in a lot of other ways. So I would rather you limit your saturated fat from all the other foods I just mentioned: red meat, fried food, cheese, mayonnaise, butter. So eggs, typically limiting your full egg yolk eggs to about 4 a week is completely fine. As I said, there's tons of good nutrients in eggs. So I don't like to pick on them too much. Trans fat is even worse than saturated fat. It's like a man-made fat, doesn't even exist in nature. We kind of put that demon on ourselves in a way. It's you take plant oils and you heat them up way too high and you change the molecular structure of them and create trans fat. So they are definitely in fried foods. They are in some margarines and peanut butters. A lot of those baked goods that you see out in grocery stores, just kind of in their like plastic containers. A lot of those have trans fat in them too. We're becoming a lot more aware as a society, and so most products are trying to take it out, but it still does exist, and it's almost always in fried foods because when you fry something, you heat up a plant oil really high, so that's just kind of what happens. Keep in mind too that cravings come from somewhere. They always come from somewhere. We don't just crave something because it tastes good. We crave it for a reason, and we need to just kind of figure out what that reason is. Fatty cravings can come from a need for good fat. It's your body crying out for good, healthy fat, that you're missing that in your diet. So make sure that you get, nuts, seeds, avocados, olive oil, that good, healthy fat. Same thing with sugar. Oftentimes it's a craving for a need for something. A lot of people that don't eat often enough and their blood sugar gets low, that's when they crave sugar. That sort of late afternoon kind of sugar craving, it's because guess what? You haven't eaten in a while, or your lunch was too small. So you got to start thinking about, why you're craving sugar, because I guarantee you there is a reason, and cravings are not normal, and you can fix them. 99.9% of the time you can fix it. So pro-inflammatory foods, I like the sad bread there. That's funny. Alcohol. If sugar is number one, alcohol is number two. And I know we talk a lot about how alcohol is, carbs and sugar and calories, and people are like, I know it's not good. But the main reason why I really don't like alcohol is because it puts a lot of stress on your metabolism, and it can deplete some of your nutrients. Alcohol does use up a lot of your B vitamins, which is really important for your metabolism. It takes precedent over food. Your body wants to get it out as fast as possible. Your body does not want it in there. And so you could miss out on absorbing some of the nutrients from your food because you're drinking alcohol. Gluten, inflammatory to some people. There's a difference between celiac disease and gluten sensitivity. I will say I personally struggle with gluten sensitivity, but I don't have celiac disease, but gluten definitely does bother me. So I do like to still eat the gluten-free grains. The great thing about going gluten-free too is there's no nutrition risks to it. You're still eating carbs, you're still eating fruits and vegetables and proteins. Your body has no need for gluten. But also, if you don't have a gluten sensitivity, if you don't have celiac disease, there's nothing wrong with whole wheat. There's nothing wrong with that. So I would just say pay attention to, your gut health. If you have any bloating, constipation, anything like that, you can get tested for celiac disease if you want to. But if you are irritating your gut lining with the food sensitivity, then it may increase your inflammation. So something that you could try if you wanted to. Dairy, again, this is person by person. Some people have food sensitivities to dairy. And now, not a lot of strong evidence on cheese, but I will say personally in practice, I see the gut health, the bloating. A lot of people say that when they take cheese out, they just feel better. And there's some minor animal studies about how the casein, which is the protein in cheese, may affect tumor synthesis. So that is something you can try. Keep in mind, if you take out dairy, you're taking out a huge source of calcium. I would still keep in yogurt regardless because it's a good probiotic. And make sure you get calcium from other sources if you try and take it out. So leafy greens, broccoli, almonds. There's a lot of replacement milks too that have a good amount of calcium in them. So that's something you could try. Food sensitivities in general, this is person to person. There's a little tiny bit of evidence on nightshades. People talk about those a lot, being pro-inflammatory. Eggplant, tomatoes, bell peppers, mushrooms. Again, you're not going to be at huge risk if you try and take those out. So if you want to, that's something that you could try. And then sugar substitutes, a good amount of evidence that sugar substitutes bother people, and a lot of people are sensitive to them. So Splenda, aspartame, sucralose, equal. Those are all, so Splenda is sucralose and aspartame is equal. There's some good evidence that they may contribute to cancer, give people headaches, confuse your body, make your sugar cravings worse. I'll say personally that Splenda gives me a headache. I know I'm sensitive to Splenda, so just kind of keep that in mind that that's something that might be causing extra inflammation in your body. Caffeine and chocolate, some people are sensitive to that, and I'm sorry for those people because I like chocolate, but some people do have food sensitivities to those. If you're curious about trying to find out your sensitivities, you can do these tests, MRT or the LCAT. Now, they're not super accurate. They may tell you to stop eating everything, and it really seems to depend on your gut health at the moment. So you can take them, but don't think that they are the end-all be-all. But it is somewhere to start if you want to do that. I've taken them before, and my tests changed because I did improve my gut health, so I became not sensitive to some things. Other common food sensitivities, MSG is definitely a big one, and the preservatives, BHA, BHT, sulfites, things like that, you can be sensitive to as well. But in conclusion, I really want you guys to, you should eat to live. You should eat to live your best life. You should eat to fuel your body. You should eat to help your body function the way it wants to. Give your body the nutrients it needs to work, to help fight against inflammation, and not live to eat, so live to just eat for comfort and pleasure. Now, keep in mind too, healthy foods taste good. They can absolutely taste good. You just have to be creative, try cooking more. I will say, I eat healthy 99.9% of the time, and I like it. I don't feel deprived. I'm not miserable. So it definitely does not have to be misery. And you feel better too. You feel better when you eat better. So always keep that in mind. These are some sources I got here. Now, I don't have my email up here, but if you want to email me for any other questions, email Kayla, Kayla, .Perry, Perry, @wellstar.org. So Kayla Perry at Wellstar, and you can feel free to ask me any questions you have. I do see people in outpatient environment at Health Place. So if you want to come over here, you can email me for more details on that. And I hope that this has been helpful for you and that this helps with your pain and inflammation. And I hope that you have a great day.